everyone, and welcome back to season 4 of Getting There, the podcast. And if you haven't already, please do not forget to subscribe. So season 4 focuses on game changers, and quite frankly, I could not think of a better guest. Today I sit down with none other than Gary Rhodes, who is a biohacking expert, public speaker, entrepreneur, father and grandfather. The list is quite simply endless. Anyway, over the last 2 decades, Gary has dedicated his efforts into promoting awareness and education on the vital importance of muscle and bone health, and he has established himself as an authority in his field. Join us as we sit down and discuss all things biohacking, bone health, and most importantly, emotional health. This is an episode you will not want to miss. Right, so without any further ado, Mr. Gary Andrew Rhodes.
Gary Andrew Rhodes.
I didn't know your middle name was Andrew.
I've not been called Gary Andrew Rhodes.
Your wife sent me it. I was like, oh, I never knew he had a middle name.
Yeah. Well, I used to distinguish myself between Gary Rhodes, the chef.
Right, so this is what happened.
Yes.
I Googled you and I was like...
A dead person basically is more famous than me in every right because he was an incredible chef.
And I was like, he doesn't look like this. Right, okay, he's dead. But right, so Gary Rhodes, didn't really know where to start. Biohacker, founder, investor, entrepreneur, public speaker, dad. Granddad.
Yes.
Jesus.
Well, I'm not Jesus, but
no,
yeah.
Wow. So I was like, oh my God, we just got you hot off the press from the Health Summit.
Yes.
But there's so much more to you than being a biohacker. But can you just give, before I know what you and I like, we could probably go down a rabbit hole, but just give us a bit of an outline of what happened to you maybe in your early years that have brought you onto this journey. Because for me and anyone that comes onto this podcast, it's also so important to understand where they've been, to know where people are going. And you're on this trajectory in the health and wellness sector and making huge waves there, but I also want to know what brought you here to do that and what's inspiring you to do that.
Wow, okay, everything. So obviously in the beginning, like everyone's got a story to tell.
That's
and
why
I
you're
think
here.
the biggest driver that they're driven by is the fear or the wantingness to get somewhere that's going to solve the problems now. So for me, I thought that if I get loads of money financially, I can solve everybody's problems. So, not the best upbringing in terms of like my mum and dad were alcoholics. My brother wasn't the most law-abiding citizen. So from that place, I was really about how can I find a way to get more money, help my mum and dad get some help. And, at this young age of, I don't know, maybe like 9, 10, I felt it within me that it's like I had to be an adult very quickly. I remember once walking down the street with my skateboard and my mum and dad was drunk in front of me and they were falling. So I threw my skateboard over the wall and tried to help them up. So from a very young age, I kind of had that responsibility. So it was a case of, okay, I need to probably step up and get mature very quickly. So as time went on, and obviously they got more and more alcohol, you just figure out very quickly what you need to do to try and secure things and stabilise things. Because when everything's unstable around you, you then have to be at some form the stability. And then through that, you get even more unstable. So, then you go on to making decisions, I think, around that.
I'm a child of an alcoholic as well, so I hear a lot of what you're saying.
Right.
And I was the only one in my house, and then that level of that chaos becomes so familiar that it's that reaped into my whole adult life until I ended up on this journey.
Yeah.
So what was next?
So I basically went to study to be a physio. Before that, let me take a back step. Before I went to a nice school called Buttershaw Upper School, there's actually a documentary on it, so it'll give your viewers an idea of what type of a school it was.
Bad school.
It wasn't a nice private school where my son went, but it was Buttershaw Upper School, and the documentary, I think, or the film, it was like a film called Rita, Sue and Bob 2. Have you not seen it?
No. Well, I did.
Wow, I wish I'd have sent that to you before I've seen you, because then you'd have been asking me loads of questions. So that's where I went to school. So it was a very interesting school. I mean, just an example, when I was on the rugby pitch, I remember the PE teacher, Mr. Walton, saying to me, just be careful when you're running around, guys. If there's any needles on the ground, you put them in that yellow bucket over there. Now, as years go by later, I'm thinking, why would he even let us run on a pitch with needles on the pitch? Well, surely they'd check them first. And then they went in a second, why would there be needles on the pitch? And then, then you realise it's right next to an area where there's a lot of drug dealing going on and drug addicts and drug dealers and stuff like that. So it was just an interesting thing. Then there was the park where people used to go over there and there was stabbings and there was all sorts of craziness going on. But actually I was kind of like the clown class, maybe a place for me to just have some fun.
Playground.
So, playground, yes. I didn't really see any intimidation, the cock of the school or the bully of the school or whoever it were, and you don't know those guys or those, they're like really nasty people. I got along with everybody, probably because I just didn't see the fear. I was just a joker. And I had a couple of classmates. There was a lady called, maybe she watches this, but Sarah Hall and Thespina. And they used to, I think, just like, in a way, mother me because they saw that I was the clown of the class. I never used to have my homework in time. And they always used to, like, get me stuff ready. You know, like, they do the homework in different writing and they give it to me so I could hand it in. So, like, they really had my back. So looking back then, I'm thinking, not now looking back then, thinking, I didn't see that then. I just thought, you know, but no, it was interesting. I loved it. I loved school. You know, my first school, Lowmore First School, was a really nice, pretty, kind of picture-perfect school. Then Delphill Middle School got a little bit worse, and then it went really into sort of Buttershaw Upper School. But I came away there with really no qualifications. But I immediately went into fitness and health, you know, and how can I get fit? And there was a guy in the neighbourhood that used to always be running, really fit guy, questionable because he used to run in winter with shorts and a vest on, so you could look at him maybe as like a bit of a weirdo.
Or a biohacker.
Or a biohacker. I didn't know what that word was then.
Yeah, of course, none of us did.
Somebody who was looking to get fit, and I was on the street corner drinking alcohol and, you know, smoking and, you know.
Just watching him run past.
Just watching him run past. And I just remember this distinctively one evening. And it was freezing. I could see my breath as I was breathing. We all got these hoodies on and these hats and we're smoking and drinking. And it's like, not that I was heavily doing it, but I just saw him run past, and it was weird because he was running past, it was up a hill, and he was running just like, it was quite inspirational because he had these big muscles, he's running up this hill, and I see him and I think, wow, and I really sort of become the observer of myself and my friends, and I'm like, in that moment, I'm like, something needs to change here because this is not good. So I found out where he was, who he was, and he was actually going out with my cousin, which was crazy, my second cousin. So I just said, look, can you train me?
Family. Can
you keep me fit? And he said, well, show up tomorrow at 6 o'clock. And obviously he didn't think I'd show up. I was there at 5:30 because I think the pain inside of me was like, I was realising like this is a slippery road. So whether I'm an old soul or whatever it is, it's just something inside me says, I can't keep doing this.
Well, and obviously you've probably seen your parents go before and see how it ends up.
Yeah. Well, I was going down that avenue. You know, I could, you know, like parents, you know, where you kind of tend to follow just habitually, you know, whatever the environment is, you soak it up. But I knew that wasn't me, and it's where I was destined to go, and at a very early age. So although I used to do it, it wasn't every weekend or every night I'd do it. But when I occasionally did it, I was scared actually to the route and what I was potentially going to go down. So getting with him and training, running, you know, so next morning went there 6 o'clock, went running with him, literally threw up within 200 yards. And this is like at 15 years old. This is not old. I should be in my prime.
Yeah.
I literally threw up. And I remember him saying to me, he said, do you still want to go? And I did, because I think, not the pain, but I think it was the determination, and not also to let him down, because he said, if you let me down and you don't come, don't ever knock on my door again. So I felt like it was my only chance. So I continued doing that for weeks and months into years, and it got me into an environment where when you start getting fit and healthy, you tend to not then drink any alcohol, you tend to not eat the crap food, you try to look for the better alternative. Nobody goes for a run to the gym and then wants to have fish and chips. You kind of like want to put some good food in the body. And that got me interested in wanting to be a personal trainer. You know, then I went into sports injury massage. I thought if I can help somebody in the gym, and if I can break them, I can earn some more money by then fixing them in the gym by doing sports massage. And then I went on to, I wanted to be then a physio. So I started to, long story into it, a few years later, and then I went to study to be a physio. And that's when I met my amazing partner, Nicola. And I realised very quickly I need to bring some more money in, because Nicola had a girl at 4 years old. So overnight I became
big responsibility.
A dad. Huge responsibility, yeah. And obviously I thought, well, just buy a little window cleaning business, because I can study at the clean windows at the weekend, study through the week. That was the idea. And then that weekend work that we bought for like £800, £2,000, it turned into £6,000 a month, £10,000 a month, £50,000 a month.
Window cleaning.
Window cleaning in Harrogate.
So funny. We were having this conversation before, actually, me and my partner. It's like, why are people trying to reinvent the wheel? Like all these sexy stuff that you see online. It's like, of course people need their windows cleaned.
Listen,
they're always going to need their window cleaned.
Yeah. Do you know, thinking about it strategically, if you think about it, if you're an electrician and you wire somebody's house, I ain't getting your business for another 10, 15 years.
No. Especially if you do a good job.
But if you're a hairdresser or a barber or someone who's cleaning windows, your income forecast is there. Because if I clean your windows on a monthly basis, I can see my income forecast for the next, as long as until you find it.
So we won't go too much into it, but just out of interest,
Yes.
You start cleaning the window yourself.
Yes.
And then did you...
So yeah, very quickly, within literally 3 or 4 months, I realised that, you know, it's getting a bit much than a weekend job. And because I like to talk, if you've not noticed, like you, people like that. Because, I mean, my competition was...
Well, you have someone in your house as well. Like,
well, that's it. You've got to have trust.
Yeah.
And my competition, to be fair, was a guy with a bald head and no teeth and a fag in his mouth. So I didn't have much
competition. One leg as well.
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
just barely standing
up.
So
all I need to do is show up, do a good job, and string a sentence together, which I could barely do myself. But I did it, and that got confidence and trust. And these are big houses. I'm from Bradford. This is Harrogate. I knew where the money was.
Yeah.
And I had a Fiat Panda with a washing line holding a set of ladders on it. It wasn't like we was really skint, but it was like actually looking back, we didn't have that much money. And that's why I went to do the window cleaning business. And anyway, after 6 months, it really took off where they obviously referred me, word of mouth. And before I knew it, it ended up growing into nearly 4,000 domestic customers. We won the contract for West Yorkshire Fire Service because the people that was in the Harrogate homes was managing directors of big businesses. So then I got to the businesses, then I got to hotels, then I got to building societies, banks. We got the Harrogate International Centre. Was working almost national. Then I had an investment. Then we had a full-time health. And before we knew it was over 100
I'm just
staff.
wondering what the fuck's happened between then. My dad told me to stop swearing. Sorry, Dad. Between then and now, from window cleaning, I'm just so intrigued.
No, we'll get to that, and that's interesting because that's I think people. It's good for people to know where you've come from and to where you are now, because I think ultimately life shapes you to be somebody that you're not if you're not careful, and that's why with the drinking it could have shaped me to be somebody that I'm not. And I knew very clearly I didn't want that. I don't know what I wanted. I just wanted to just try and get healthy and try be a better version of who not my parents were, because it was incredible. I don't want to sound negative, but I knew that getting out of reality, knowing now what I didn't know then, is that they was emotionally constipated.
We're going to get onto that later.
Yeah. So
you're cleaning the windows.
Yes.
You've won the lottery ticket.
Well, I worked hard too.
Yeah.
So just fast forward maybe 8 or 10 years to 2011. I kind of checked out the business because the business was doing great. So good that it probably did better without me, because when I'd go in the offices, I'd get kicked out because I'd cause disruption. So, I spent a lot of time, making really good connections, getting big contracts, and then throwing it over to the team. But in 2012, after listening to Tony Robbins' CDs, that's the bit of a missing part. That's the glue. We bought his cassettes and CDs on finance when I got with Nicola, because we literally didn't have any money. So poor. So poor. We didn't have enough money to pay £300 for some cassette CDs. And it's embarrassing in a way, but looking back, we took it on finance.
Yeah.
I put them cassettes in the Fiat Panda, driving to Harrogate, feeding the mind whilst I'm going cleaning windows all day. I was scared of heights. I didn't know that until I got there. The first time I'd gone up this dodgy ladder cleaning. I didn't even know how to clean a window. But I listened to Tony Robbins, and I was there 8 hours all day in between speaking to clients and customers, and I fed the mind so much that for 10 years, I can't give Tony Robbins all the benefit, but I actually applied what he was saying, and that gave me the energy, the passion, the drive, the determination to create financial freedom to some degree, because obviously, like I say, that was what I thought was going to give me the answers to everything. But when I'd sort of made quite a little bit of money and, bought the Ferrari, done all the things that you want to tick off, and like, once you get there, this is why I think that when you get a good amount of money, you become slack. You get fat, you get lazy. But I didn't. I actually went to Tony Robbins in 2012 to see him live. And luckily I could pay for platinum tickets. I gave his charity some money. Not because, I just wanted to give charity. I really felt like I wanted to give back because I'd gained so much. And at that event is when I would say my life changed in a way that I can't even explain. There was a guy in the back of the room, because Tony brings a lot of people to these seminars. There's like 5, 6, 7,000, 20,000 people. And at the back of the room, he'll bring things that really make a difference to people. So they might be on the pseudoscience where, it's not in the mainstream, but he's looking for the 2mm shift that can really make the difference in people's lives. So this guy, by the name of Dr. John Jaquish, was a scientist and a biomechanical engineer. And his mother had osteoporosis, and his father was Paul Jaquish, who is one of the inventors of the lunar rover for NASA. So these guys are intelligent. So I'm in the room with Tony Robbins, but then I'm coming out and hearing this guy tell me about reversing osteoporosis. Now, obviously, my grandmother was the one who I feel really brought me up. She was very glamorous, immaculate nails, and obviously she was kyphosis. She had osteoporosis, and she was this amazing woman that...
For people that don't know what osteoporosis is, can you just...
Yeah, so it's a deconditioning of the bones. So your bones get weaker as you get older and start to decline, and that's when people then start to break bones. So we don't see as bones, so we don't bother about it until we're later on.
So she had really frail bones, is what you're saying.
Well,
essentially.
osteoporosis. Osteoporosis starts at minus 2.5, and it's in the red. And when you start going further down, you're more, potentials of fractures.
So we're going to get onto that. So it's more about the skeletal health.
Yeah.
But so you're at the Tony Robbins thing.
Yeah.
The guy in the back's also got a nan who's got osteoporosis. His mother, he's got osteoporosis.
So he told me he'd reversed his mother's osteoporosis, and I'm like, this is impossible. How can you do that? And I understood Wolff's Law because I was studying to be a physio. I understood anatomy and physiology quite deep. Because I was an avid learner, so I didn't learn at school. This is the weird thing, but when you're passionate about something, you just find a way to learn more. We're all in on it. Just like the story you told me downstairs, just you go for it, because when you need to get a solution, you'll find a way. So when he told me that, I'm like, oh my God. And then he said a few things that like give me goosebumps. He said, Gary, osteoporosis is not a disease. It's just a deconditioning of the bone. Anything that's deconditioned can be reconditioned. I'm like, osteoporosis is not a disease. That's what it is. It's a disease. And he's like, no, it's not. He said, the reason why people are getting old, it's not age related. I'm like, what do you mean? My grandmother's old and she's been told she's got a disease, and like, you're telling me that's not the case. He said, no, it's a lack of impact. He said, think about it. When astronauts go to space, there's no gravitational pull. Therefore, their bones become very weak and deconditioned very quickly. In fact, they have to carry the astronauts off the ship when it comes back. Sounds a little bit far-fetched. Yeah, because zero gravity. When your body doesn't have a need to use something, it starts to work very efficiently, and it starts to then pull things out the bone to keep things going. So I'm like, interesting. And he said, who do you think's got the strongest bones in the world? And I kind of like, I think I did say gymnast. I'm going to say that now, but I'm pretty sure I said that. He said, yeah, why do you think they have the strongest bones? Well, I said, obviously, because of the high impact that they do. He said, yeah, so when a gymnast hits the ground, the bones compress, expand, recalcify, and pull minerals in. I said, great, but my grandmother's not a gymnast. So,
Yeah,
like,
of course.
how do I get all the benefits of a gymnast without killing my grandmother? And he said, I like your questions. Well, for me, it was just basic, simple questions. I'm just asking simple questions, trying to find an answer. And he said, well, this is why biodensity, this device that you're looking at, is what reversed my grandmother's osteoporosis. We put her into 4 simple positions. And for the people that are listening to this, if you can just imagine a chest press, and a leg press, a core pull, and a vertical lift like a deadlift. So it seems a bit like gym equipment, but we don't want to mistake it to be a piece of gym equipment. Gym equipment, you move through range of motion. When you do a chest press, you move through range of motion. With this, if my grandmother fell over or anybody fell over, they would put their arms out, but they wouldn't put them fully out, and they wouldn't put them here. They'd put them in a 120-degree bend to withstand the fall. If you jumped off a wall, you'd land with your knees slightly bent. You wouldn't land with them fully straight up, all right down. I said, okay, I get it. He said, so in that dynamic, we put your grandmother in this machine, and she self-loads, so it's isometric, so it doesn't move. It fixes her there. So when your grandmother pushes against it, she looks at a screen, and she can see how much force she's producing. But he said, remember, if the foot plate doesn't move and the back doesn't move and your grandmother's knees are like this, there's going to be a little bit of movement within the joints, but fully when she's pushing, the knee's going to drop down and it's going to self-load and her bones are going to compress just like a gymnast. I said, but
so is this the same as the gyms in the machine, the machines in the gym?
No, completely different. It's one machine. It's isometric. There's only 4 movements, and the aim of it is to replicate high-impact forces through just self-loading. So is
there a frequency that's going?
There's no frequency. No, it's basically self-loading. So if you was to squeeze your fist as hard as you can, okay, you would never be able to break a bone in your finger, even if you had osteoporosis, because your nervous system, it's called neural inhibition. Your nervous system protects you and it shuts you down. The reason gymnasts break ankles and knees and all sorts of things is because it's an uncontrolled event. When they hit the ground, they're slightly biomechanically off.
Yes.
So the aim here is to put an individual into their strongest biomechanical position, which would be natural, and then the force comes from within. So no force is being put on you, no electric frequencies are put through you. All you're simply doing, and this is actually, it's so simple, people ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Even a lot of orthopedic surgeons and doctors and professors, because they're so smart, they're asking intelligent questions. And it's like, no, come back to simple. You are just basically like this wall. If I turn around and put my foot against the wall and pushed against it, as long as it's fixed, I'm trying to challenge myself, self-loading.
So did you put your nan on the machine? 23
months later, after buying the machine, I bought the machine. 23 months later, my nana went from minus 2.7 back into the normal ranges of a 30-year-old. Now, bearing in mind, my grandmother thought I was going to kill her to start with, but I said to her, look...
Was it painful for her?
Not all. In fact, not all. She loved it because for the first time at 79 years old, she starts to see improvement. She starts to see her strength gains going up.
Yeah, and you think you're dying.
But before I got to osteoporosis, because theoretically I thought, okay, I want to go with NASA scientists. They obviously know what they're doing. Tony Robbins is a great thing. Like, there's something here. So I bought the machine. I said to Nicola, I need at that time we can afford it. So I said, get me the card. I need to buy it. It was 20 odd grand at the time.
Oh, she like, you've lost your head.
Well, she said, I don't know. She's just used to me because I'm just buying loads of shit I don't need. So anyway, but this one was the best thing I ever bought. So I bought the machine. I didn't know where I was going to put it, but I ended up putting it into a building in Leeds. I ended up having to take a rent on and do all of that because I thought I'd just stick it in my grandmother's bungalow, but that was theoretically a great idea. Put it into a place in Leeds, Bridgewater. Got her to come every single week. And the one thing that I focused on was actually not how do I reverse osteoporosis, because my nana had lost her confidence. She'd lost her strength. She'd lost that sort of like...
Her?
My grandmother, yeah. She'd lost her...
She'd lost her essence, yeah.
She'd lost her essence. So after being 20 minutes with her, once we get past the anxiety and the depression and blah, blah, she'd come into this beautiful, like, amazing, like, tell me... I'd get her back into her past.
Well, is it like the dopamines when you go running?
Yeah. So I got her to say, listen, she said, I'm not confident. If I fall over, I'm going to break my hip. And my friend died within 12 months. And the stats now are if you are over 65 and you break a hip, you are 15 to 30% chance of dying within 12 months. So her confidence had gone. So what did she do? She stayed at home. She didn't go out. She was scared of going out. So one thing I needed to do for her was reassure her psychologically or just get her to be like, there's a possibility here that your best years are ahead of you. And if you want strength and you want stability, we have to get you balance. And that's where PowerPlate came in. So we put her on the PowerPlate, and he was the chief scientist of PowerPlate as well, the whole body harmonic vibration, which is amazing. So we got to stand on this on one leg while holding on, and that would create an instability on one leg. And then that would help her stabilize. The nervous system would rapid fire the neural pathways and create a stability. Instability would create stability.
Yeah, so it's like when you put something under pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah, or it's like, when you're doing, I would liken it's like ballet, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It builds all the muscles because it's like they're on their tiptoes, and it builds everything else around it to structure
Precisely,
it.
and we're not kangaroos, we don't balance on two legs. And I've learned a lot of this now, so then I didn't know this, but all I knew is that to get a balance improved. So within 5 sessions, her balance had improved over 60%. Now, this wasn't just on a chart. She physiologically felt it, which gave her more confidence. And that was a good pre-activation before going onto biodensity, where she was about to put more force through her body, a spine, a hip, a wrist, a clavicle, everything that she was to push with. She only pushed like maybe 20, 30 pounds to start with. But because when she was pushing, she saw the screen going up. So even at 79 or 109, we all want to see that needle going up. So she saw it. And every single week that she came, and you can only do it one time per week because that's the turnover osteoblasts, the bone formation, one time per week, literally 20 seconds, and I'll get on to why it's 20 seconds, but she did that every single week, and over the 23 months that she used it, it dropped down some weeks because she wasn't feeling great, but overall, she'd increased her strength gains by 27%, 79 years old.
Wow.
And in that dynamic, she was able to compress more of a musculoskeletal system. And remember, it wasn't just strengthening bone density. Wrists, a lot of older women and men will fall and they'll break the wrist. And it's not necessarily that they've got weak bones. It's the ligaments. It's a lack of deceleration when they hit the ground, because the biggest thing my nana picked up was a cup of tea. So her wrist hadn't been challenged. So in 23 months, we increased her balance, we increased her strength, and then when she had a DEXA scan, it was literally back in the green. Now, it was obvious to me because she was kyphosis. Her shoulders was back. She was a completely different person energetically. She went back to bingo. She did all the things that she loved to do. And I'm like witnessing this, like my grandmother who has been there for me. There's one thing I wanted to do was get my grandmother having better quality of life. And we did that. And then I started to look at the research and I realised it kills more people than breast cancer. And I'm thinking, well, why would somebody get osteoporosis? Loads of questions came like you and I, with just brain goes crazy. And I thought, okay, I'm going to look into this further. And it's only if you're 65 and over and broke a bone, or not even then do you get referred for a DEXA scan. So I'm thinking, well, what age do you... These are internal questions. What age do we start losing bone density?
Yeah.
And then I figured out, I found out that it was at age 30, we start to lose 1 or 2% a year. We start to lose muscle quality quite rapidly as well, and strength.
Can you counteract that by being in the gym and stuff?
Absolutely, yeah. So when you think about biodensity, I don't want anybody to believe that you don't need to go to the gym. No. Cardio, you don't ever get confused when you go to the gym. You're going on a running machine to increase cardiovascular.
Yeah.
You pick a dumbbell up to increase muscle.
Yeah.
This device is specifically targeted to help individuals at any age, including high-end, and we'll get onto it, but high-end athletes. If you have a stronger foundation, a skeletal system, you can be more explosive, or you can not go into the degradation of an old osteoporotic individual.
Because you don't believe we have an obesity crisis, do you?
I say that with tongue in cheek because I've just been to America. So any Americans listening, there's a lot of people that are...
There are definitely an obesity crisis
well,
there.
listen, the drinks...
But tell me what you mean by that.
Well, when we look at health, we look at metabolic flexibility. And I know we're switching, but fundamentally, the people that are overweight, they're under-muscled. They're not overweight, they're under-muscled.
Right, got you.
Okay, so whilst I might say we don't have an obesity crisis, we have a skeletal health crisis, most people are underboned and under-muscled. Because when you think about metabolic health, where's the receptors to pulling glycogen? It's in the muscle. So we call that sarcopenia. Sarcopenia is muscle wastage. So when you look at an individual, have you ever seen anybody that's skinny fat, that's not fat but skinny?
Yeah, of course.
It's just think of a reservoir that's full of life. If it's depleted, it starts to dry up. There's no life force in there. So when we put food in his mouth, it's the ability for us to assimilate it, digest it, and get the nutrients to the cell. But if you can't pull it in, and then where does it go? The body becomes inflexible and starts to create loads of problems. So we need to focus on muscle and bone health.
Right.
And I think that the obese people, if they start to go and do that, getting rid of the fat's just a byproduct of
and naturally they'd make the right food choices. But I know we jumped. So you've done all this amazing stuff for your nan, and it's opened this door to you into this realm that you can't unsee, right?
Yes, yeah.
So then just what are the next steps?
Well, then it's like Spider-Man, I've got a responsibility now to bring this to the world.
Yeah, you can't not see that.
And I didn't know this was going to be the direction of a decade later that I'd be on this journey. So I then looked into all of the stats and I was blown away. And I'm thinking, this is not an old person's problem. This is a global problem that if we don't address it. So I basically give them a shit. Because I was like asking loads of doctors. I was flying Jaquish and I was like trying to be resourceful. And I thought if we get everybody in a room and we share this information, like my grandmother's reverse osteoporosis, I was like telling doctors and they were like,
the world's changed.
There was like big deal. I'm like, have you seen it before? Well, we've never seen this before. In fact, a few doctors that rang out said, what on earth did you do? And I explained it because a lot of their clients, patients, they put them on bisphosphonate drugs and it kind of they rapidly decline. I'm not saying don't take drugs. You've got to listen to your doctor, but we've got to look at the causation.
Do you have to listen to your doctor?
Well, listen, for political reasons, you know, always checking with your doctor because we're not doctors. I'm not a doctor. I have a team of doctors that I work with who are, shall we say, focused on causation as opposed to symptoms and finding a non-pharmaceutical option to bone health, shall we say. So 2015, I ended up giving the device to Stratford Surgery, the NHS, because I said, why don't we conduct a study? And you give a DEXA scan, we'll put this intervention in and then scan them in 6 months and let's see what happens. So Dr. John Jaquish came over, a guy by the name of Basil Hunt. They led the clinical studies in London. And basically, within 6 months, there was a 14.7% increase in bone density on average. Now, considering...
You're meant to lose 1% a year as well.
1 or 2, so that's equivalent to 7 years' worth of bone loss back in just 6 months.
Wow. How many people did you do it on?
I think by the end there was about 28. Now, you might think, well, wait on a second, that's not a big enough study. Because when you look at, listen, if I got underwater for 4 hours, just me, just one person, it's not good enough. We need to do 10,000. No, if one person doesn't breathe for 4 hours, I want to know what that one person's done.
Of course,
So, you know, so ultimately I thought, okay, we need to do more research consistently. And since then, a lot of research has been done. But in my simple brain is, Wolff's Law doesn't lie. Meaning, if we can compress bone in an axial format, meaning bone to bone, that the body will respond and adapt and start to regenerate new bone. There's over 100 years worth of research on that. All we're saying is if we can put somebody in that position to get that, the adaptation in the body will respond and do amazing things. The body is so unbelievable in what it can do.
But what happens to people that don't have access to this machine? Is there other ways of doing this?
Yeah, I mean, strength training. I mean, if you are, let's say, compromised and 65 and you've got osteoporosis, for my grandmother, I wouldn't want her to go and lift weights because if she did, I don't know what weight she's selecting. Is it in the wrong position? And the last thing I want to do is to break a bone. Now, I'm not saying you don't go do exercise. I always say to people, do what you can do in the safest way because when you're at 65 and 79 and if she breaks a bone, I don't want her to kill herself. So there's a balance.
And she's inexperienced around that.
Yeah, she's never been to the gym in her life before. She was the most like feminine, amazing lady that just had a good body all of her life. She's just blessed. So going to the gym at 79 would probably not be the best thing. But for those people that can't afford it, what can they do? They can walk, they can breathe, they can pick up a sandbag, pick up a tin of beans, something in the kitchen and challenge the body. Remember, whatever we don't use, we lose. We atrophy and die. We need to challenge the body, even if it's like just bending down and touching your toes, whether it's just twisting.
Because I remember when my grandparents were like 60 odd, and I was like, oh Jesus, they're so old,
60 odd,
but
like
then,
no age.
When I was like 15, like they're like dead, they're like dinosaurs, right? And I remember thinking, oh, like no grandparent really lives past 70. Like now it's wild. Like my dad's 63 this year. He's so fit. He's so healthy. But there was something about like the last few decades that once people retired, they were just indoors drinking their tea and it's almost like their life had ended. Like I believe that my dad is one of the people in the generation underneath them to really come on, continue to exercise, continue to do that. Because also there was quite a lot of scaremongering, like, well, now you're this, now you're 60, you've got to be careful, you can't do this, can't do that. And it has the reverse effects.
Well, it's the opposite, isn't it? We need to be moving. Don't tell Gran to sit down and stay indoors and put the heating on. It's like get up and get out and move. There's still life left to live. Because I remember honestly being like, okay, well, everyone dies at the 70. I'm like halfway through, but like obviously now, how long are we predicted to live for now? Well, it depends who you speak to. Speak to Brian Johnson, we're going to live to 200 maybe, I don't know.
I don't know if I'd want to live that long.
Well, listen, I think you would if you had a reason to live that long. If you've got great-grandkids and great-great-grandkids and you feel good and you're not in pain, you see, we don't get old and miserable, we get old and in pain and want to die. But if you feel like you feel now and you've got a purpose with your kids, do you want to leave right now?
I want to be as active as I am now.
So if you're active in 200 years like never before, would you still want to be
Yeah, probably.
So there you are, there's your answer.
But when we spoke on the phone, I mean, we could have spoke for ages, but we were talking about all this amazing well-being stuff. And you said something that really landed with me about people being emotionally constipated. Can you tell me what you mean by that?
Thank you. Okay. Is that what I said? Yeah, I basically blame everybody for being emotionally constipated. You see, so I come from a place now after a decade of helping people physiologically become strong. This is the only body that I've got. I don't have one in the wardrobe at 70 to exchange. So my focus has been on how can I help my grandmother did it. We've now helped thousands of people and millions of people have gone through this technology. So physiologically, helping somebody to be strong is amazing. But I always say then, and through my own learnings of emotions, I didn't get given a manual when my mum and dad was alcoholics. Here, this is how you process these emotions of resentment, betrayal, anger, all the frustrations I felt like, let down, whatever it is. I didn't know how to process them. So I had to take those emotions, suppress them, and push them down and bury them alive because I had to figure this shit out.
Yeah.
I felt like I had at the time because I didn't have
windows
anybody around
to
me.
clean as
I had
well.
windows to clean, I had
Yeah.
guts to clean, I had some serious shit to do. I mean, like,
Inherited a child, like you don't have time to process what
world
happened to you.
changing stuff, like the world was on my shoulders.
Yeah.
And so with that, then you come from a fight or flight response, it's fear. And you can't stay in there too long because your adrenals get burnt. So when I say emotionally constipated, it's not just something that I really knew to articulate then. It's now that when you bury an emotion and suppress it, it stays down somewhere in the body. And it's only when something triggers a wound that's not yet been healed that then you bring down that emotional constipation because things can be going amazing for you. And then something happens, and it's not even about what happened, it's something that's triggered an unresolved emotion that was a story. And it doesn't really matter what the story is, it's not even the thought of what happened, it's the feeling that you still have trapped within the cells. So coming back to physical strength and all the rest of it, I believe that unless you deal with the emotional component, that the tail will be wagging the dog. And what I mean by that is that we're all emotionally constipated and we will make decisions on how we feel. So I say we're the worst terrorist in his own organisation because I can vomit on this podcast and give everybody hopefully some value of what I've got in the last couple of decades.
Yeah.
And if they take that away and think it's amazing, I'm going to help my grandmother, I'm going to look in tomorrow what Gary's doing, I'm going to listen to Brogan, and amazing. But what happens is as they go through the next 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, all that information is great, but they fail to act upon it because something has triggered them in somewhere else because we're all getting pulled from different places.
Life's so noisy.
Yeah, and then we end up not doing and we don't follow through. So when people say awareness and education is the most important thing, I agree. But if you're emotionally constipated, all that awareness and education goes down the drain because you're still trying to figure out ourselves.
By emotionally constipated,
Yeah.
what I'm hearing you say is we have unprocessed emotions that live within the body
Yes.
and within our brain that we haven't technically dealt with.
Yeah.
Because I've been reading a lot as well, is that, am I right in saying this, that a lot of the trauma lives in the body?
For sure.
So if something really traumatic has happened to
Yeah.
you, I actually went, do you know Paul Leonard?
No.
He's an energy healer. No. Yeah, they call him the Buddha.
Amazing.
Anyway, blah, blah, blah. You don't tell him anything. I'm going to show you a video. I actually took my son to see him and he's like, you've had a car crash when you were 14. The car literally was touching parts of my body. I was like, oh my goodness. He came up to my neck the second time. He was like, I'm seeing you on stage. You're at something. And it was like about when I was like, I had this acting thing at school. I was like, wow. And it really he never knew about these things. And he was touching me. And the way he worked, he's like an energy healer, but he would press. And I promise you, Gary, it was like a pole going through my body. And I think we almost feel like, okay, well, that's happened now. Like, that should go. Like, I remember, again, going back to my dad and my granddad, it's like, well, that's gone now. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
But what we forget is that our head and our hearts and our minds, they're all one thing within our body and that it holds stuff. So how do we start releasing this emotional trauma?
Well, firstly, I'm not the expert. This is just my opinion. And, opinions are like our souls. Everybody's got one. But my version of my truth is that it's actually, we have threat detection systems. It's our nervous system and it's there to serve us. So I need the ability to get angry right now. If somebody walks in this door and starts being physical, I need to step up and get angry very quickly to protect or defend.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we go through life, it's trapped within the trauma is trapped within the cells for a reason, and it lays dormant. And sometimes it'll never go away. It's there to serve us. It's only there when it doesn't serve us, when we're in like a situation and it derails our whole emotional fabric. So you get easy access to anger and betrayal and resentment in a situation with a partner or something else because of something that happened years and years ago.
When it's unnecessary.
We need to have an email now. We know that we can literally increase cortisol and adrenaline by an email that you get or a text message that you're waiting on.
Oh my God.
The nervous system does not know the difference between a lion chasing you and that. So biochemically, our bodies change, hormones are changing constantly. This is why Instagram dopamine, we're always looking for that fix, and we deplete our own hormonal system because we're either in fight or flight or rest and digest. And the aim is to try and get into a homeostasis to be here. And we just said it before about getting there. You know, you're either in a problem, you've just left one, or you're heading towards one. That's life.
Yeah.
So don't think that once you've sorted this out, it's going to be all right. Once I get that paycheck, once we get an olive, once we get this shit behind us, we can see light at the end of the tunnel. That's at some level our brain trying to create a vision of the future that's more compelling to the shitty situation that we're in right now. So the nervous system is there to serve us. And I always say to people, when I used to interview, I don't do any interviewing anymore because I'd be apparently I'm discriminative. You can't smoke, you can't drink, blah, blah, blah. I used to hire gym instructors that were fit, you know, good customer service. I could teach anybody to clean windows. But you need to have somebody in front of you when you recruit. I think this should go into every recruitment. It's because your CV, Brogan, is going to tell me where you've been. It doesn't tell me who you are right now, because all you are is an amazing person that I think has come to a CV. You've done 10 million in sales, great communicator, whatever your CV says. But what I really want to know is, who is Brogan now? Brogan is a set of emotions, and I want to know, what emotions are you still holding on to that's unresolved? Now, you won't be doing this in an interview.
Jeez, I get no job.
But let me tell you, you are hiring the person in that emotional constipation. State. And I say constipation because, listen, if you're still pissed off because your partner's left you, your mother-in-law did something, you got humiliated at an event, I'm just making this up. At some level, how easy do you get access to that vibration? So if there's something that somebody says that triggers that was nothing to do with them, you're going to react in a way that doesn't serve you and probably the company. So I need to make sure that you're not as constipated as you.
How do you do that?
Well, it comes to frequency, and this is my learnings. I'm working with, I would say, some of the best experts in the world. One of them's doing a Netflix documentary. I can't say who it is because he's a bit of an introvert. Doesn't really want to be known. I'm like, how come you're doing a Netflix documentary?
Can't we get him on here?
Possibly. Listen, I think he should be, and I want to bring him to the forefront.
Yeah.
So one of my current business partners is working on it, but it's one of those things.
Right, you heard it here first, whether this bloke is, he's coming on. Right, go on. So how do we know, if you're going to interview me and you want to know what set of emotions I am, how are you going to work that out?
Well, that's a great question to ask, because I think that's got to be left for more of a different discussion. It's not in the interview process, but you'd want to know that, wouldn't you? If I knew that you're fucking resentful, really resentful towards men, because all you've had is shitty men in your life, and I'm the CEO of the company, and right now you're smiling and it's all great because I need the job, and it's
I'm going to sabotage your life.
But my God, if I say something that's slightly, remotely like feminist or something, boom, you're going to trigger. HR, whatever, yeah.
I'm not, by the way.
No. I shouldn't use people as examples, actually. I learned that the other day, but you shouldn't use people as examples because you don't realise what you're triggering with inside them.
It's all woke. So let's have a conversation. And I know you were going back to what you were just saying, and we were talking about the diagram here, but I genuinely believe one of the biggest lessons I've ever learned is that life is uncomfortable and shit's going to happen. Because you almost think, don't you? But you almost think, once I get through this bit, I'm going to be all right. Like, the amount of times I've gone through stuff in my life, I've just got to get over this bit. And the more you know, there's going to be more bits and more bits and more bits. And I think knowing that builds an almost resilience. Like, something happened to me the other week, and I was like, this has happened before. It's going to happen again. It's going to happen loads of times again. And one of the other things, what goes hand in hand with that, is like learning to detach from what's happening to you. I think
being the observer of your own crisis.
100%. The observer of your own crisis. Love that. I've been more like, okay, right, what is this trying to teach me? And why is this showing up again and again? Because it's not them. If it's showing up again and again, it's me.
I love it. Yeah, no.
So, and having that, just like you say, just being an observer, being a third party, and people probably won't like this, but I sometimes just like trying to laugh at this shit. Like, I was messaging someone and I was like, no, honestly, I have to laugh or I'm going to cry. And he's like, no, I love that. Because it's going to happen. Like, stuff's going to feel uncomfortable. But I remember you were saying, is it right that the biohacking can only change 3%?
Well, I make shit up. First of all, laughter's a mechanism to process whatever it is. It's to allow your nervous system to get overwhelmed, overstressed, and create havoc. Just want to point out, because that's
okay. So while we're talking about the nervous system, for people that are novices, they've just come on this and thought, this isn't the stuff I usually listen to on the Getting There podcast. How have I fallen down this rabbit hole?
Yeah. Just
really, really, in layman terms, what is the nervous system and what is it made up of?
Okay, so I will make it even simpler than what's it made up of, because start going into the neural pathways and the connections of connectivity.
But it's emotions, right?
It's ultimately...
don't let me talk, sorry.
No, it's okay. I would say to everyone that's listening is the only thing that matters in life is the way you feel in any given moment. because you're only trying to feel a certain way. That's why you say in the future it's going to be fine, because we're trying to get the feeling of what we want to feel in the future. We're just in this environment that doesn't serve us. Environment is stronger than will. So the nervous system is there to protect you, 100% protect you, but it's what we perceive that as. Like Wayne Dyer said, change the way you look at things and things that you look at will change. So you can take the same situation and look from a different perspective, and you can see the gift in that problem versus the problem, because then you're reacting. When you're reacting, it's not good, because when you're reacting from a place of fear and emotional constipation, you are going to be somebody that you are not. And that's where you become like, I can't believe Brogan, she just flipped out, she did this. I'm sorry I keep using it as an example.
No, go for it.
But people need to listen to this, because how many times do you know that you think afterwards, you go back and you think, shit, I can't believe I said that. I'm so embarrassed I did that. And you don't want to blame yourself. There's still trauma trapped that you've just overspilt something that needs dealing with. So the body and the nervous system will eventually, and that's where teachings come in. How come it keeps showing up for me? When you take 100% responsibility for everything, you no longer give control to other people. So now, even if something happens, and I know it wasn't my fault, but this has happened 3 or 4 times, so there's something I'm doing that's creating this situation.
Being shown.
Yeah, so again, if we can look at the nervous system as our best friend, but then we need to be a good friend to the nervous system and say, I don't want to keep putting you in a fight or flight to keep telling me I need to move my ass or do this or do that. So this is why rituals matter. Putting yourself in a safe environment. Nobody can make any decisions truly until they feel safe, number one. If this floor wasn't here in the podcast studio, you and I couldn't have this comfortable conversation. We're going to try and work fight or flight. The nervous system's going to tell us we need to move. So that's to serve us, isn't it? Yeah. But you could look at it and think, I can't believe it, scared me to death. Why me? Why me? No, actually, thank you, nervous system. Yeah. You've let me know, you've communicated to me that there might be danger to protect me to get out of here. And if we look at every problem in a very similar way, that whatever comes up and shows up, what other blessing or what other thing am I not missing? Because most people that keep repeating the same shit, they're not looking. And when I got knocked on my ass in 2020, I'd gone through so much shit, like you wouldn't believe, loss. I mean, I had so much coming at me. On the front of it, everyone thinks things are amazing because social media is just full of shit. I mean, we always show what we want to show. But behind that is 99% of the things that we're holding up, that 1% that we're showing that looks really great. But behind the scenes, you are trying to deal with everything that you can possibly do. And that's when you're trying to figure out. And I literally got knocked on my back. And when I get knocked on my back, I just like do a backflip and get back up again and I'm back off again. When I fell on my back, I stayed down there a little while and think, holy shit, I don't even feel like I want to get up. Like, I need to figure this shit out because something I have done that is not that I'd really done anything wrong, but there was a lot of lessons. Now, I didn't want to miss the lessons in that because now what I know I can avoid moving forward. And sometimes when you really, really understand the lesson, it never shows up again, really. But then you can observe in others, and then you can become an advocate.
But you never stop getting the lesson, though. Disclaimer. It'll be a lesson in something else.
It's just a different variation, and it gets more detailed. I mean, when the biggest fuck-ups, you'll realise very quickly, but then you'll still mess up, but it'll be like a tweak. It's that 2mm difference that makes all the difference. If you're a golfer and you hit a golf ball, and I don't play golf, but ask a golfer, if you hit it just slightly 2mm off here, in 400 yards, you're in the fucking pond or you're on the green. Very different, but it's only a small distinction here. So in life, if we do something now that doesn't seem like it makes a big difference, let me tell you, in 6 months' time, you're in a very different place from the decision that you made today. So we have to be careful of the thoughts that we think, the things that we say, and the decisions that we make. Because the biggest thing that we have that's valuable is our time. And one decision today can steal hours and months and years from you. So when I got told that by somebody, I was like, that was like a in the forehead.
Aha.
Like, holy shit, yeah, because I've just committed myself to that. Why? Because I want to be liked. Oh, but that's going to take fucking 40 hours over the next 3 months. And they're like, I'm not spending time with my children. So when you really value yourself and you value your time, it's not that I'm better than you and I ain't got time for you. It's like, I only choose to spend time with people that I want to choose time with. And hopefully they want to spend time with me. But if I do, I'm very mindful of my time because that's all we've got. So if I choose to spend an hour with somebody and they choose to spend an hour with me, I'm so grateful because that's all we've got. But let's not dick around talking about Coronation Street or somebody else bitching about what they did. Nobody cares.
Low energy. So I'm almost thinking here, is our nervous system or the way it makes us feel, is that our own internal GPS? Because you can find people that are good for your nervous system and then you can find people that really fucking trigger you.
Yeah.
And trigger your nervous system.
Yeah. It's the opposites, and it's the dark, the light, the in, the out. Everything's opposites. You know, if you look at everything, that's why there's this thing with Terence Howard that talks about the universe expanding. If you think about it, you know, everything goes forward, everything comes backwards. A rocket goes up where it'll come down. So when you think about as nervous system, people feel safe with, and there's some people we don't feel safe with. It's just the opposite. And we don't know the one without the other.
Yeah.
So you then can really appreciate the other, because in the absence of like a shit relationship, you now know what a good relationship is, or you think you do, because you have a baseline set. You might have a really shitty relationship, and then the next relationship's really good, but only in comparison to the last one. But do you know the true baseline of what really good is? Because all you've had all your life is...
It's crap.
It's crap.
So you could be missing good.
So your GPS system, I believe, is that when you realise your own value, all you need is within you now. You don't need a fucking guru. You don't need anybody telling you anything. I say to you, and I think I mentioned this on the call, is forget all the doctors out there. And I don't say that. If you get hit by a car at 50 mile an hour, you need a surgeon. You don't need vitamin D3.
Yeah.
Okay?
You don't need to supplement cod liver.
Yeah, if you go within, okay, I always say to a lot of CEOs that I work with, I say, listen, you've seen every doctor, you employ thousands of staff, nobody tells you what to do. You're this alpha male, or this alpha female that's like, you're dominant, you're great, but you're absolutely fatigued. You're overwhelmed, you're overstressed, and your life's a mess. So I say you only need to visit these 5 doctors, okay? You have Dr. Diet, Dr. Quiet, Dr. Happy, and Dr. Movement. And you see them sit back and they kind of know what it means, because we know what Dr. Quiet is it shut the hell up, and Dr. Movement, we need to move. But fundamentally, I said, just think about those 4 doctors. And I ask you, which doctor do you think you need to visit today? And 95% of them that I ask say Dr. Quiet. And I say, okay, great, why Dr. Quiet? And they said, well, I need time to think. And I say, well, when was the last time you booked a meeting with yourself? And start laughing and said, why would I book a meeting with myself? I said, so you can think. Because all you're doing is reacting. And you've been able to react for so long, quite accurately, but you're not the strongest version of who you are. And by the way, there's a 5th doctor. Okay, what's this 5th doctor? It's Dr. Truth. When you go visit Dr. Quiet, Dr. Truth knocks on the door. And they're like, well, who's Dr. Truth? I said, Dr. Truth is your internal voice, your internal guidance system, because all the answers that you need are within you, but because you're so emotionally fogged up and you're reacting, you don't get time to come back into your genius of who you are. I need to introduce you back to who you are, and those answers will come in, and then you'll be able to be a better person for yourself, number one, because your relationship with your partner or your relationship with your staff is shit. Why? Because your relationship with yourself is shit. So when you get to work on you and become the strongest version of who you are, you can now echo that, vibrate that out, and that'll be attractive, because you'll be seen as a real leader, a real CEO. And if somebody does something wrong, you won't react because you're pissed off because you've got 50 other windows open. You can create that space. So I would visit Dr. Quiet, Dr. Diet, Dr. Happy, Dr. Movement. Some days you need to visit all of them, but don't forget yourself in the process.
You consistently need to probably look at all of them.
For sure.
As well, like diet. A lot of people were just like, especially maybe more... busy mums, anyone. Well, I mean, we're all busy. Like people who are successful in business, like grab a sandwich, grab this, like whatever you're putting in your body, you're fueling it. And I saw this thing the other day. It's like someone feeding Coke to a plant, and you're going to expect it to grow. No, it's not going to work. But it was really interesting what you just said there. We were talking about my son had some health issues, all of this stuff, and my life became so noisy. I had a big charity event. I was up a lot at night thinking about what to do with him and all of this other stuff.
Course, yeah.
And at the same time, I'm trying to do this, right? And I'm like, I'm not in flow, I'm not inspired, which mostly would happen to me for like a week, and then I'll get downloads or I'll be able to do stuff. I promise you, Gary, for 6 weeks, I had nothing. Yeah. And I was like, I give up. Literally, that's how I felt. I was like, I'm going to give up. And I went for a walk the other day and I just heard myself go, it's like, I was like, I need to get inspired, right? So then I spent loads of look on the internet, right? Give me some inspiration about what I'm going to do next. When that was just more noise. And I heard myself go like, you don't need to be inspired. You just need silence. Because whatever ideas and whatever I've got is like already inside of me. And life is so noisy. It's like you say, we all think, we need this PT, we need a dietitian, I need a life coach.
We're looking outside.
Yeah, we look so outside and it becomes so noisy that we forget that everything we need is already inside of me. And what I need and what you need are 2 totally different things, right, Gary? How you're going to light up the world and how I'm going to light up the world are totally different. And that's okay. So it's like, even when it goes to following all these like leading biohackers and all of this stuff, it's like, well, remember, they don't know it all. They know what's right for them. Yep. And I'm a firm believer in success leaves clues. Like, you can't doubt that. But by you following someone else's blueprint, you're losing your authenticity. and I spoke about it a few times, like even when I came to doing this, before I started, I was like, right, I'm going to listen to Jay Shetty, I'm going to listen to Stephen because they're like number one, and I'm going to like interview like them. And I don't know if you've watched any of them, but they're very like professional. Yeah. They probably don't talk with their hands. Yeah. They definitely don't swear. Yeah. And I came to realise, like, if I'm going to try and mimic their success, I'm losing who I am. And for me, for it being me. And I think we're caught up in a world where everything should look a certain way. The trajectory, we spoke earlier, of your life should just be this upward line. And we get so annoyed when it's just not constantly going on this upward trajectory. And like you said, the biggest lessons is like when you step back and being on your back is like, right, what is this teaching me? I almost look at my life like a video game, because I almost think, and this is when things are happening around me, like even when the wars and everything's happening, I'm like, right, what is everything, even people that are having problems in their relationships there or stuff that I've been involved with, I'm like, right, try and disassociate. What is this teaching you? Because I used to spend so long being an empath, right? We spoke about being children of alcoholics. So I've seen people in pain from such a young age. So all I wanted to do, Gary, is save everyone. And all that would happen is mentally I'm putting myself in everyone else's shoes and I'm draining myself. Like, what can I do for them? What can I do for that? And when you come to realise the only reality in life that you've got is yours. That's it. So it's like, okay, right. I always look at it like a game, like what is this showing up for me? And like you say, it's all good and us, you and I having this conversation, we'll probably speak in 2 weeks. I'm like, I've just pulled my hair out, my child hasn't slept, and my ex-partner this.
But it's an expression as well.
Yeah,
you can trap that in,
blah,
you'd be crazy.
blah, blah. And then, I've run over a cat. No, I haven't. But do you know what I mean? Like, life's going to get in the way. And it's understanding that, because I think with everything that goes on in social media and these podcasts and self-development, you have these guys who are like the guru, the hierarchy, and then we get annoyed. Sorry, I have to keep reminding myself, Dad, I'm not allowed to swear. We get annoyed with ourselves that we're not in this constant flow and we're not constantly composed and we're not constantly doing this stuff. And it's like, you're human. Yeah. And you're going to mess up. And for me, the biggest indicator of how your life is going to go is that bounce back rate, the being on your back. How quickly you can get back up. But not only how quickly you can get back up, what are you going to take from it? Because there's no point in getting back up to go back for the same punch to hit you again.
Absolutely.
And it's just, and I know we spoke a lot about the biohacking, and that's what you do. Really, is your bread and butter now?
I mean, biohacking is an overused term, and I kind of put that on there because I had a lot of comments saying like biohacking's this, that, and the other. Obviously, that's something that they need to deal with. Biohacking really just means upgrading the body. Okay, so when I think of biohacking. And you asked me a couple of questions and I didn't answer them because I went on and
It's what we do. We're going round.
Answered questions.
It's a merry-go-round. We're going to go round in circles.
But it's all good if you can stay with us. Yeah. But just coming back to something else you said about you didn't want to be inspired, you wanted to be quiet. But what you're really saying there, because the term inspired, the Latin word of that is in spirit. You can't be inspired unless you're in spirit. So what you're really saying is you need to go back to who you are, and then you can be inspired. That's what so many people say. I don't know how you can be so energetic or blah, blah, blah. It's like, and there's times that I'm not, but I know when I'm not because I'm not in spirit. I'm not who I am. And when you try to be somebody else, you cannot be inspired because you are trying to be everything else that you are to so many. You're trying to be so many things to so many people, to give from a place you can't give from, deplete life force. And it's sad because my mum did it. She was the kindest, most gentlest woman. And you think about why was she an alcoholic? Because she was trying to suppress emotions that were so painful to get out of reality. And I thought, I want to get drunk in consciousness. I want to be so sober to feel and see and touch and be and do everything. It's the last thing I want to do. I won't take any drugs then. I won't take any alcohol. I won't take any, even an aspirin. I wanted to be so awake.
That takes a set of balls, though.
Yeah, or desperation. I mean, I'd like to say it. Want a set of balls.
But again, going back to what we said, courage doesn't exist without fear.
Yeah, I was fear.
It's a set of balls.
Yeah, big ones. But it's like, whether it's a set of balls or, whether it's an ego that drives somebody, something is always driving us, but it tends to be to avoid pain. Our need to avoid pain is greater than the need to get pleasure. We'll always go there. And we're always going to come from a place of some level of trauma. So you look at a lot of people that are successful in life, pick a person, Oprah Winfrey, follow her story. She got raped as a child. She got all. So it's like these people that you see that are famous, or these people that are out there on podcasts and interviews, behind those people, they're genuinely trying to give a message to the world, and they don't have all the answers. I always say when I'm speaking on stage, I'm not the expert. Genuinely, I just regurgitate what I believe is smart information based on my own references, not something I think is. Like, who gets results in the areas that you want? People talk a good game, but then you follow up with them, and like, you can never take advice off a fat person about losing weight. They might have the knowledge, but there's an authenticity vibration that's like, some things there's a disconnect here. So that's when you say, I can't connect with that person. Vibrationally, what you're saying is the intuition, the energy field, whatever you believe or don't believe. When you walk in a room and somebody says, I don't believe in that energy bullshit, I'm like, when you walk in a room and you haven't heard somebody speak, but you say something, I don't feel right in this room, what you're actually referring to, your gut, your nervous system, it emits a frequency and it can detect, because it's looking for danger, something that's off. And then you label that as something don't feel right. I don't know if I like that person. I don't know if I like this house. Or that's how we make decisions. We make decisions based on how we feel. So sometimes we make shit decisions on a feeling that wasn't even ours to a fucking trauma that you didn't even know about. So it's crazy how life can shape you to making decisions that you're not even control, because the subconscious is what's driving you, not the conscious. Like, you could probably say about your partner, I know exactly what he's going to do when he comes home from work. He's going to go to the gym, he's going to do this, and you can just lay it out, because we're habitual human beings that just do the same shit consistently. The question is how do we break out of those bad habits? To do that, you have to deal with the emotional component, and that's why I say people are emotionally constipated, because they know what's right, but they're not doing what's right, because they're going back to avoiding pain.
So why do you think we don't trust our gut or that feeling of that person coming in the room? Like, I mean, I'll speak from like even my dating perspectives before. Like, there were red flags. Like, we're going to a circus, and I'm like, oh no, this is going to be fun. Why do you think we override it so much?
Because I'll tell you what gets us belief. If that person, you see the qualities in that person that gives you something, we're kind of prostitutes in a way, because we'll exchange that for something that we think we're going to get, or the need to serve our needs. So if you feel that that person's shown you some love or something that you're unstable in, you're going to clutch onto that because you don't want to let go of it. So you're now clutching onto something that's going to give you stability because you don't have any stability. So that's why I'm saying, if we can create emotional stability.
What does that look like?
It means that you know who the fuck you are. I can't swear. That you know who you are. Allowed. I can swear, but you can't. Yeah. Okay. But when you know who you are, you're not fear of getting judged. Now, I don't fear of getting judged, but I want to genuinely make sure that I'm serving in when I'm speaking or when I'm doing something. I don't want to be unauthentic. So if somebody doesn't like something I say, then okay, that's your problem, not mine. As long as I'm not being abusive and all the rest of it. If I genuinely have the right intentions, and I hope I do, and if I don't, then I'll try correct it. It's the person that can observe something that they've done and say, actually, I were a fucking arsehole. We all say that in his head sometimes, but we don't say it to his partners. It's like you walk away and you're like, fuck, I messed that up, shit. But you don't have the balls, because your ego's so big, you can't go back to your partner and say, you know what, sorry, I'm really sorry, I were an arsehole. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But they hold that in, but then the wife or the husband will hold that resentment, and the next time you do something wrong 3 years later, on Tuesday, Wednesday at 3 o'clock, you fucking said, well, it's like, what?
Oh my God, I saw this meme on Instagram. It was like, men go, look, I'm sorry, and women go, no. But 5 years,
and
have you seen it?
Yeah.
But 5 years ago, you didn't cut the thing. I was like, yeah.
But on a serious note, but it's true, because we hold that in his nervous system, because that at some level triggered an unresolved trauma and an emotion that was like, that's all over the place, but that's just been brought to the surface by something somebody said. So again, I know it's an overused term now because I keep using this word emotional constipation, but like, we're all about lifting weights, getting strong physically, but we need to be emotionally stable for ourselves, and in that dynamic we can be emotionally stable for others, like children. And when a woman or a man, like women, I've just interviewed over 300 menopausal women. Can't believe I just said that.
Oh my God, that must have been painful.
It kind of was, but the reason I did it is because there was a direct correlation to losing up to 5% more bone density for menopausal women, and actually doctors are not looking to screen them at all. They're looking at balancing the hormones. And what I found out through maybe 2 years of doing this is that women particularly, and I'm not saying guys don't do this, because men and women, they all care, very different people, but women genuinely will always constantly make sure that the children are okay, the partner's okay, everyone else is okay, and in that process they deplete their life force. And we know this. Men do it as well, but women in particular. So when I say to people now, with menopausal women, perimenopause, postmenopausal, going through the menopause, I believe that women going through the menopause actually have had an identity crisis, because they've forgotten who they are, because they've been so much to so many people for so long.
Served for so long.
They have now forgotten who they are,
it's like
and it's a
And
breakdown.
it's taken,
because they've lost themselves. And when I talk about GPS system, it's like their internal guidance system they've lost, because now their sons have grown up and left. They've forgotten who their husband is because they're working, he's doing the best he can. I'm not blaming the husbands. We're all just doing our thing. And then you wake up and think, what's my life about? This isn't how I envision my life to be. I've given my life away, and like, who's here for me now? So there's resentment. So that's an emotion. That's an emotional vibration that's not serving us, because it becomes the now what? Well, now I'm 48, let's say, you've gone through the menopause. You're still very young, but you need to get your life back on. So you need to go and visit Dr. Quiet and get real with yourself as like, what does success look like now for the next decade? Because you look at your partner and you think, that's not who I got with. Because they're now somebody different. I'm somebody different. We need to reconnect. See, I don't think people get together and just split up after 4 years. I think that if we don't grow together, we grow away from each other.
Yeah, 100%.
And we don't realise till a certain place, and then we think, and then you end up getting bitter in the end and twisted. But if you actually realised, I'm not who I were when we got together, and you're not who we was, and we've not grown together. So let's be adult about it.
I wasn't who I am at Christmas, Gary.
I wasn't who I was this morning.
Yeah.
I was coughing.
No, but I hope that, and almost there comes a lot of shame with that, in relationships. Like, you weren't who I were, and then they put a lot of responsibility and blame and shame on the other person.
But that's them bleeding on you for a crop that they've
I
got.
hope I'm not the person we were when we got together.
I hope so, yeah.
I hope I'm not that. I hope I've continued to grow. I hope that I've continued to see what my lessons are. Like, I hope you weren't born to stay in the same place. You're not a tree.
No swearing.
Do you know what I mean? I know.
Yeah. Well, when I look at my partner Nicola, I look at the person that she is, and she's the most sweetest person. She's
Lovely.
She's an introvert. And I look at her and I almost feel like I want to protect her so much, because she's a person that she's just gentle. She really is a good person, and she'll put everybody else, again, same women. She's gone through the menopause. She's putting everybody else first, and she'll sacrifice her own health, her own time, everything to make sure that Thomas has got what he wants, Ellie's got what she wants, the grandkids, me, but not her. So when I look at that, I just see the beauty in that moment, and I think, my God, I need to make sure that my focus is with making sure that you don't forget yourself and lose yourself.
So what would you say to people that are listening to this and feel like they've forgotten themselves? And obviously this all comes with a disclaimer, but just from everything that you've done, the people you spoke to, the research, like, what is the biggest thing you can say, like, to anyone that's listening, go, do you know what? I don't know who I am anymore.
Well, I would say, first of all, say thank you for whatever that voice has just told me that, because now I don't feel like, whatever it is, I don't feel like I'm the person I want to be. That's your nervous system speaking to you. So it becomes the now what? Listen, we've all got to a certain stage. It's like the question is wherever we are in life right now, whatever you're going through might be the worst time ever. And there's all quotes on Instagram and stuff, and it's like, I don't want to just regurgitate that, but from my experience, we have good days, we have bad days. We have to get clear on what success looks like. We can't just say we have good days and bad days. Yeah, we do, but we can have better days. Your worst day that you've had doesn't have to ever happen again. You're still going to have a bad day, but my bad day is a good day. Seriously. My days are nowhere like I was like really challenged emotionally, financially and mentally, and I didn't know who I was, my relationship, I didn't know whether they were going to be this, and do the kids even like me? All that's a different type of vibration. But wherever you are and however you feel right now, is life can be as exciting as you want it to be. Life can be exactly what you dare to make it, but you have to get back into spirit. You have to have something to go towards, because if you are going to take the past and then vomit that into the future based on the past references and say, well, in the past, everybody's fucking treating me like this and treating me like that, so I know what that person's coming because I've already had this experience. You can't do that. You have to go into the future almost unshackled from all of this shit.
Almost like a new lens is like what
you have to
I'm
cleanse your
hearing you
lens.
say.
You have to go into the future realising, listen, whatever happened in the past, I'm not starting from the beginning. I'm starting from experience. And when I start from experience, I can avoid the pit holes that I went through. And I'm not going to judge, because I'm not going to get caught up and entangled in that energy of somebody else. You have to let people go on the journey, and you have to learn to love people from a distance. Because my family, I love all of them, but I wanted to help them so much that I'm thinking, you're going down like the fucking Titanic. I love you, but I ain't going to drown myself because you want to go down. So you have to remove yourself. And when you can detach yourself, it's not that you don't care, because then you're thinking, I've given up on somebody. People give up on me, and I'm not going to do that for the next person. You have to be intelligent here. And the only person that you need to make sure you look after is you. Literally, It's stupid because it's the oxygen mask from the plane, of course. But so often, so many of us feel that we don't have to do
as
that.
a parent, I thought that's a really selfish analogy. But the more I do this work, it's like, okay, right, what do we want to teach our kids? We want to teach them X, Y, and Z, and to put themselves first, and to da. But how do you teach your kids? You don't teach kids anything. You show them, right? So by me saying to like my son, whether it's like, I need to go for a run in the morning, or like, I close my door for 10 minutes, and I'm like, I unload the dishwasher. I'm like, you've met me. My head's noisy enough as it is, and then I've got a 3-year-old jumping on me with dressed as Spider-Man. I'm like, oh my God, someone take me out of this window. And it's like, and that's what it's just like, showing that level of self-care.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. I wanted to ask you, what was the darkest moment then for you?
There's been many, and there's one when my brother was sentenced to prison.
Oh, Jesus.
My mum and dad, I came back, my mum and dad was face down on the floor. I thought they'd kill themselves, to be honest, because they was just not moving. Realised that they was completely so drunk that they was completely out of it, and they was laid face down. And in that moment, I kind of had this like, wow, my mum and dad are dead. I genuinely, that's what I thought, because they weren't moving. And you don't see your mum and dad face down in the living room. They've been killed. What's going on? And obviously I thought, wow, who is here for me right now? Like in this moment, throwing the skateboard over the wall and helping mum and dad up, it was one thing. But now knowing that there's really nobody here to save me, that was a defining moment, because I thought, wow, there's nobody here to save me. And that's not blaming mum and dad. They were just, listen, looking back now, they were doing the very best that they could do with their emotional
That's the reality for everyone, though.
So I just thought, right, in that moment now, I need to find a way to look after me. And selfishly, I moved out the house. Obviously, there was drunk, eventually woke up and whatever. But that gave me enough determination to say, like, I've got to look after myself now, because nobody's here to save me, because they're on their journey. They don't know how to deal with it. And I love my parents, because through that gave me the resilience, that gave me the shit, and why I had to go through the journey to become the person I am today. And I'm constantly learning to be stronger. But the reality is that give me a type of resilience that you can't buy on a motivational CD. When you go through stuff like that, you really know who you are. And then my biggest value then was about loyalty, trust. You can see how now other emotions come in. My highest form is integrity and trust and loyalty. If you say something and don't do it for many years and you didn't do it, I would be fucking emotionally constipated, saying like, I'll never speak to that person again. Well, that's not healthy either. Because, why should I have an expectation of what you should do for me? It's unfair for anybody to have an expectation of what somebody else would do, because if you've got high standards or a standard and it doesn't meet yours, then everybody else is an arsehole, and that's not the case. So you have to learn people like, so I want to be that guy that walks in the fucking room when everybody walks out with the people that I love and care about. And I would like to think that if I'm in a room, I want somebody to walk in a room, because in that room with mum and dad, nobody walked in that room. The persons that should have been there for me is my mum and dad, in my opinion. But there wasn't. So I want to be that guy that walks in rooms for my family when shit goes down.
This is an interesting question. So not many people, or maybe like have had some of the experiences we would have had because of our parenting, right? And I think we're quite like-minded in the sense that now we want to protect our children from any of that happening to them. And although I had a really awful traumatic childhood, it has actually given me the ability to connect and be with people and give me these whole other skill set. And there's part of me that's like, that's not going to happen to my son. So they almost don't build this resilience.
Well, it's like the
How does
kids.
that work?
Well, if you think about it, it's funny because I was just speaking about this yesterday with an incredible doctor at the Health Summit. And we're talking about kids playing in the soil, getting access to dirt and bacteria and shit like that, where the kids now don't get it. They don't get any of that because they're in the computer games. They're not moving. They don't have any kind of like real challenges, so they're unstable. So how do we deal with that? It's a great question, but it's one thing that I was very aware of, that when I had my son, Thomas, and obviously Ellie as well, is that how do we now not vomit on our kids the shit? Because like obviously weak parents bring then strong children. There's a saying, strong children bring weak times and good times bring weak times, whatever. There's a saying, and it's great because it just makes sense. You can see the pattern of generation. So when I got with Nicola and Ellie was there, 4 years old child, a daughter, it's a big responsibility. And anybody that takes somebody else's child on, I absolutely commend you. Because it's a big thing, this thing about people get called stepdad. There was something in the paper with Amanda Holden, and it was on Instagram, and she said she put a picture up saying, I've had to write to the Daily Times for the last 10 years telling them to say, it's not my stepdad, it's my dad. Why is he a stepdad? And obviously she's got something that, because I've never looked at him as a stepdad, because he stepped in, maybe when the dad didn't step in or whatever the story is. So the reason that I think that that looking after children, whether they're stepchildren, I see Ellie and Thomas equally, the brother and sister. I don't see as anything as stepped. I've stepped in, played a role, responsibility, but through whatever my past was, I take it as a responsibility now. Is how do I spoil them? Because I want to give them everything that my parents didn't give me.
Yeah.
And my parents give me everything, but there's things that they didn't give me that I want to fill in. So how do I now because then it comes back to how you feel. I want my children to feel like they don't have to go through anything. So you make them weak in that process. And it's hard because I want to spoil the hell out of, and I have done, Ellie and Thomas and my grandkids, I want to spoil the hell out of them. But I also know that it's unfair, and that would be my disservice. And it'd be my feelings. I feel good because I'm making them feel good. Well, that's selfish in a way. If I can spoil them in a way that serves them, I mean, like Thomas, we took him out of school when he was like, I don't know, like 12, 9, 10. We moved to...
Why?
Well, we moved to, when we, so just finishing back the story, when I helped my grandmother, the studies showed that Tony Robbins, and we partnered with him, travel the world, spoke on stage, got these clinics everywhere around the world. Haha, great, tick, amazing.
With Tony Robbins?
Yeah. So
Jesus.
Yeah, then I got a call from Jaquish saying Tony Robbins wants to meet with you. So I flew to Chicago, ended up taking the rights internationally for osteogenic loading. We opened up countries all around the world. I spoke on Tony Robbins' stage. I mean, think about it. And I say this with...
from cleaning windows in Harrogate.
Well, even more so than that, from like this, I want people to listen, wherever you are right now, okay? Back then when I was like looking at mum and dad on the street corner, didn't have any money, didn't know what to do, I found a way to get myself in a better environment, to get, it's never a lack of money, it's always a lack of resource. But when you have the right direction where to go and consistency, you will find a better place. And when I found, this is so funny because it takes me back just as I'm saying it, when I found a way to get Tony Robbins CDs and cassettes, think about this. I'm driving in a Fiat Panda with a washing line, holding some ladders on a roof, feeding the mind for 10 years. Fast forward, 2012, I helped my grandmother reverse osteoporosis, give it to the studies. I get a call, go out, meet Tony. Tony Robbins then wants to partner with us, and then I'm speaking on his stage. I go to his house. His beautiful wife, Sage, makes me bulletproof coffee. We sat watching a moon bathe. We get to speak with him and see him, and I'm like... I'm pinching myself now. I feel
Yeah.
So, and I don't say that to impress people. I say it because, like, a guy from Bradford that has, like, really nothing and, the school and all that.
Little education.
Can end up on a stage in front of 10, 12,000 people. And through sharing my grandmother's story that's inspiring other people. And it's not even about inspiring them. They see in my story something that they could do for maybe their grandmother.
Or themselves.
But they know, do you know what really is interesting? When people go to seminars, they don't generally think about themselves. Think, oh, that'd be really good for my sister. Oh, this would be really good for my next door neighbour. It's like, yeah, what about you? Because we forget ourselves in the process. So just to summarise that is that wherever you are, look, I mean, listen, for me, I think I've not done bad considering that I've been able to get in rooms, and that obviously I'm working with Tony Robbins has got me in the rooms of having dinner with Donald Trump when he was president. I don't want to go political, but who gets to sit with a president or a prime minister, sat in a room, meet Elon Musk, all these amazing names that I might name drop? Is like I'm just as shocked as anybody else. It always happens to somebody else. But being with these people and being with these smart minds, you'd have to be an idiot to not see these patterns to success and patterns to failure. And with that as an observer, you can really, really make a difference in life. And so for however corny it sounds right now, however long I've got left, my focus is on impacting humanity physically and emotionally, and trying to provide resources where we take all these complex issues and fucking make them simple and affordable. And I like to say to people, don't fucking tell me how to build a watch, just tell me the time. Because I ain't got time to know how the watch works. And that's not being disrespectful. People can't drink from a fire hydrant. They just need to be spoon-fed. And it's not that they're stupid. We've got so many windows open. My son's not well, and the doctor said eat this, and someone else has said do that, and then somebody said there's a flashing light, and then you get all of these external stimuli.
Noise.
You're lost now. And guess what we do when we don't know when to make a decision because everybody's telling us what we should and shouldn't do? Guess what we do? We make no decision. No decision at all, and then we go in.
Then we freeze ourselves, don't we?
Yeah, we freeze.
So talking about what you just said then, we've had a great conversation. I could talk to you all day, but I want to talk to you about the biohacking stuff and like the conversations.
I think you've asked me 3 times and I've avoided it.
Yeah,
so let's go there.
No, but it's all right. Listen, everything that we see online, like you're saying, hacking your system to do better, to work better, more efficiently. Yeah. I mean, there's so much stuff out there. I mean, the other day I saw like we all need this certain red light at a certain frequency and length, and it's like £100,000.
Yeah, doesn't need to be that.
Doesn't it?
Doesn't need to be that.
Oh my God. So there's like people online And I'm just like, how does this work? They're like influence and stuff.
Yeah.
And they share their like idyllic mornings. I'd like to know how much of this is true, actually. But it's like, I get up, I meditate, I journal, I do an hour-long podcast, I walk the dog, I have my infrared sauna, I have my cryo, I dry brush, I come home, I have my breakfast.
A dry brush.
And then I start the day.
Sounds great, doesn't it?
I'm freaking out. I'm thinking, I've got to get up at 4. Is there any point in me going to sleep?
And kids are jumping on your
Yeah,
head.
how's this going to happen? You've obviously got no kids. And I'm like, it becomes so far removed from reality, all of this stuff, and it becomes so noisy. And my sisters are on a similar journey, and we were saying the other day, like, when does it stop? Now you shouldn't be putting the dishwasher tablets in the machine. It's like, but just from your field and the leading experts that you talk to, what would you say are the, like, for the average person? Yeah, and just the average person that's listening doesn't know much about biohacking, but just wants to improve their life. Like you say, that 2 millimeter.
I'd say you're blessed because you're not full of shit now with all the confusion out there. Sometimes ignorance is bliss. Sometimes when you know less, it's better because you come back to simplicity. I was speaking at the health optimization here.
I know, we robbed you out there, didn't we?
It's okay. And then I was speaking in Dallas and I'm speaking in Japan in a few weeks. So I get to speak at these amazing places, but I always start my presentation with not even talking about what I'm doing because I'm just a guy that now I'm an investor in the company and I'm an owner in the technology, so I'm bringing this to masses. But I'm the guy that's coming from the lenses, let's say the bone guy. So I'm the guy that's going to talk about a product and sell your product into a physio, a corporate or senior care living to help more older people. So you can't really listen to me because I'm biased. I'm going to talk about skeletal health until the cows come home. So behind every single product is a person that's going to tell you, and that's nothing wrong with that. We're all going to come from the place that we feel we've got benefits in life, and that's the beauty of life. We all bring the value. And
differently, we've all got the light differently.
Absolutely,
exactly what we're saying.
But my speech started like this. Like I said, everybody in the room, please put your hand up if you're here to live a longer and healthier life. Now, everyone's probably thinking, this guy's crazy. We've flown all around the world. We're at a biohacking conference.
A health summit. Are you joking me here?
And this guy is asking us, do we want to live longer? But they're all putting their hands up. And I'm like, I know where I'm going with this and you don't. Okay, I said, so fantastic. I said, so we want to get results today. So I'm going to talk about my grandmother and my story. And I'm going to talk to you about bone health. And hopefully it's valuable. But before we get there, let's just focus on what we know to be the 4 pillars of health. So how many people's tracking everything that they're doing, like VO2 max? Everyone puts their hand up because they're all biohackers, glasses on, and they've got methylene blue in their mouth. And I'm saying, this is great. I said, so no one's in the room now. You can be yourself. Because I know to the world, we're the biohackers and we've got all the answers. I says, but truthfully, if we was to go back the last 30 days, 60 days, how many people have truly slept a nice deep delta wave of sleep for 30 days and woke up feeling amazing? Do you know how many people put their hand up in the room? Maybe 1 or 2. There were maybe about 180 people in this room. Now, considering...
And they're meant to be at the forefront.
Considering they're at the forefront, and there was laughing a minute ago and I said, look, guys, let's stop bullshitting. I said, if we want real results, and you're saying you all want to live longer and happier and healthier, but you're not addressing the 4 pillars of health, which is sleep, nutrition, hydration, and movement. I don't care when you leave this room, because my presentation is going to be... And I'm eating into my presentation time, by the way. I said, I would be inauthentic if I didn't mention this right now because I want to get you guys results. I genuinely care about whatever you do. Let's do something that we can measure and manage and make sure we get the results in the areas. So when you leave this room and go back into that amazing biohacking, and by the way, a lot of these things really actually do work, but even if you get everything right, hyperbaric chamber, methylene blue, high dose vitamin C, grounding mats, all of these little wearables that we do.
Eat a kilo of sage.
And this comes back to your question before, how does it only move the needle 3%? I don't care. Listen, it's probably less than 3% because unless we have the foundational pillars, if you're not sleeping correctly, no methylene blue or red light's going to solve it. And even if you get all the biohacking right, it's nothing in comparison to those 4. So let's address this first and then go do that. Because hopefully that comes through as authenticity because, like, they've forgotten themselves. They're so busy being a biohacker, they forgot to do the basic shit. It's like, no, mate, go sleep, regenerate your body because you're overstressed, you're overworked, and you're in this room and you're, like, running around thinking all these little gadgets are going to get you sorted. And really...
It's just scrambling for
you're
answers.
Scrambling. And there's a lot of great people within that. So I also don't want to be negative because there's a lot of great people that are doing some great stuff and actually helping a lot of people's health. But then I go into my...
So what would you say the 3 free accessible things would be to
sunlight,
the average man?
Get into sunlight, grounding. A good friend of mine, Gary Rhodes, I worked with him for a couple of years. Phenomenal guy. He's blown up. People probably know who he is now. But fundamentally, before he's got behind a lot of products now and he's selling them, really the point is he comes back to nature. When was the last time you touched barefoot in the ground? And for those thinking barefoot, this guy's like, he's talking about wizard stuff.
He's a vegan.
He's a vegan. Yeah, getting it. But listen,
Tree hugger.
if you get barefoot in the ground, okay, and discharge all this electromagnetic frequencies, we hear about EMF blockers and detectors and blah blah blah. The point of this is we have electromagnetic frequencies. The sun charges us. When you get in the sun, and when people go on holiday, how much better do you feel? Probably because you're not in a stressed environment, but you've got the sun generally if you go somewhere warm. So getting access to sunlight will be number one. Okay, movement, grounding, and breathing. Most people are not breathing properly. You know, when people are stressed, where's the shoulders? Down. How's the breathing? It's very shallow. So if you're breathing and you're hypoxic, that means the blood's not pushing the nutrients around the body to the distal ends of the capillaries. And that's where people say, I feel a little bit like, really weak. It's like, no, we need to breathe. And this thing about ice baths and saunas, there's a sentence that I say to a lot of people. I said, if you was to describe health in one sentence, what would you do? And you're like, oh shit, do I talk about biohacking? Do I talk about sunlight? It's a full book. But if people can remember this, and this is really simple.
Tell us.
Health in one sentence is this. If you was an alien and I couldn't like, you only had one sentence, this would be it. We have to nourish the cells and detoxify the body. If you can find a way to do that, you're going to live a longer, happier life. Now we can get into a debate about what you have to eat. If you're eating cardboard and I look at your blood and I can see it and you're healthy, keep eating cardboard. And by the way, cardboard's not good for you.
Yeah.
But the one thing that's not in your blood is somebody else's opinion. So if you can nourish the cells, the essence of life is to put food in your mouth, get the nutrients, assimilate it, digest it, and then eliminate. Most people have a plumbing issue. So don't get complex with all these doctors. Just ask yourself a question. Am I eating properly? I don't know because I don't know if it's right. Are you shitting properly? No. Okay, there's a problem. We can't digest and we can't get the nutrients. If you are undernutritioned, you've got a problem. You have an inability to pull in the raw materials to rebuild your cells. So, sorry, I've just gone on there, but it's the three things, sunlight, grounding and breathing.
Yeah, and I think touching what you just say for diet there, I think I represent the average, I'm 33-year-old girl that, you know, like, and I would say the biggest thing that I learned is like, so my generation, I would say, have got a lot of body dysmorphia. We were at the tail end.
It's an emotional constipation.
Yeah, exactly. But we were at the tail end of the Kellogg's diet. Go and eat that before you went out. You know, don't soup cleanses, juice cleanses, and then it ends up in this whole binge cycle. And then they end up like Weight Watchers. That was something that was like light of life. You read this, it's completely full of crap, right? And my biggest lesson when it came to my health was, because I feel like science is changing and evolving. It's low fat, it's high fat, it's this. And I don't think we'll ever know it all because I don't think we were born to know it all. However, what I know, if I can't pronounce something on the packet, I won't eat it. So I'll go and eat chocolate.
You might not be good at reading, though. It might be something.
No. But do you know what I mean? If I go and have a bar of chocolate, give me the Lindt, give me the Hue, give me all of it, yeah? Sugar, I'm not really that scared of. But if I'm then going to go and pick up a Snickers or a Milky Way that's got EC2, stabilisers, and that is like a general rule of thumb. Yeah. And being in this self-development space, I go on retreat stuff and I met two lovely girls and we were having this conversation. They were doing light of life and I was like, girls, if you can't pronounce it, your body can't break it down. We know what an apple is, we know what a little bit of honey is. We know what chicken is. And I feel like they are the foundational blocks of just starting with stuff. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is.
You can only be as healthy as the soil. So when we look at the planet as a whole, we're depleting life force out the energy with all of the chemicals and the things that we're doing. People are overworked, overstressed, and underpaid. So therefore, they go for the cheap fast food that's ready available. You have to remember that the system is not designed to keep you healthy. It's designed to keep you ill because the medications that you can put you on, they want to kill you. They want to keep you alive long enough to do it.
Keep buying.
So stand back in your common sense corner. How do you feel right now? I feel shit. Okay, great. Well, let's change it. People just stick on the same thing. And
would you have chemotherapy if you got poorly?
Oh, don't ask me that question.
Why not? Come on.
I personally wouldn't. Because when you look at the
like
stats...
the third person, I said, I've just had a woman who was head of research at Great Ormond Street. She said, no effing way.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the... Listen, I would say, people, do your own research because you're going to get opinions from everybody, okay? Does it make... Just stand in your common sense corner. Because trust me, people that say I'm not intelligent, trust me, you was born with some level of sense. Not everybody's got common sense. But when you just stand there for a moment and just shut everything out, I don't know... I don't really know anything, but the things that I do know, I can find out by looking. So if I don't know something, and with today's modern technology, just ask AI, please give me the last 2 years of stats on people that have taken chemo on stage 4 cancers. How many people survived? Now, obviously, there's variables within that, but you have to make the decision because I think if you had cancer, okay, then ask that person that question, because at that point now they're unstable and like, well, everybody said it's bad, but the doctors are telling me this, you're in fear.
Because chemo's not changed in 38 years.
It might, okay, let's just
How
be
much
honest.
your iPhone's changed?
Oh, massively. Everything's changed.
But you can't cure,
Yeah.
chemo's not updated in 38 years. It's younger than what I've lived.
Yeah.
There weren't even mobiles then.
Yeah.
Absolutely mental to me. There's a lot of people making a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, the body's a very, very smart thing. And you have to, and some people say cancer's the cure, and you might think, how the hell is cancer the cure?
I get that though.
Yeah, because ultimately the body's the last stage, is trying to do everything it can to wrap a tumour around to protect the body. So you don't just wake up with cancer. Now I know people say, well, kids are born with cancer. Okay, so we know that it's generational. Things can come through. You can have a predisposition, a genetic predisposition to say, like two sisters, identical twins, both grow up, both are 43 years old, one gets breast cancer, one doesn't. Okay, so what's happened? So you can't say then it's genes, because we're going to epigenetics then. Dr. Bruce Lipton, he's somebody that everybody should look up. Dr. Bruce Lipton, he's the godfather of epigenetics. And he says that it's the triggers loaded with the gene. It's whether you're going to pull it through environment. Environment will trigger the gene response to bring out. That's where stress comes in.
Interestingly, I feel like subconsciously we spoke a lot about environment there. You like the moment that you saw your mum and dad upside down, you took yourself out that environment. The moment you were on your back, you took yourself out. When you changed your environment to go and mix with these high achievers like Tony Robbins or going to these courses. Yeah. And I think that's a bit of advice you can give to anyone. We almost feel like we're at the mercy of what's around us. But like I said, you're not a tree, you can move.
Absolutely.
And it's about finding, for me, it's always been about finding people that feel like home, who are like equally as curious about life. And I think we've all got these innate questions and stuff. And I think for anyone that's listening, like you want to grow, you want to change, like you want to evolve, and changing your environment, like you're saying, it can be the gene that triggers it for the cancer. It can change your financial income, your job.
For me, I would say this, that environment is stronger than willpower, because people say, well, I've got really strong will. I'm like, I'll put you in an environment that doesn't serve you. It's a matter of time before the environment will get you.
You're on a diet. It's only so long in a sweet shop. You're on a diet. I'm going to put you in the middle of the gym. What's going to happen?
Because you're making a decision from a place of emotional constipation. All roads lead back to nervous system deregulation. The nervous system needs to be regulated. If the nervous system does not feel safe, it's going to make decisions based on fear and put you in a safe mode. That safe mode might not be the best thing for you, but it's going to... Remember, the brain is designed to survive, not thrive. So the brain is going to tell you, we need to survive here. So this modern world of we need to thrive and be amazing, our brain's not going there. Our brain is literally looking what's going to kill us and what's going to not kill us. So if we think about this, if you was looking at a stagnant pond and you saw loads of mosquitoes around it, flying around it, you'd be like, who's brought the mosquitoes? No, it's the environment that has attracted the mosquitoes. Oh, well, look at those rubbish bins over there. Yeah, look at all the rats that are around them. Okay, well, it's the environment that's attracted the rats to the bin. So again, we have to be careful what we're attracting. We have to be careful what we're saying. We have to be careful who we spend time around. Because who we spend time around, you are literally going to be adopting that environment. And then if you're emotionally constipated, which we all are, including me, I'm not saying I get out of this, I'm less emotionally constipated and I've got work to do, as we all have. But if we can be aware of that, then we can somehow be more drunk in his own consciousness to make better decisions.
And I think you and I, even having this conversation, if like 10 years ago, we'd probably be locked up with white coats on. Do you know what I mean? They would have been like, they're mental.
Well, even now, I think, I live in a world of, my environment's around a lot of, shall we say, academics, professors. We've just took on someone from Oxford. I mean, I'm blessed to be working with, I work with smart people, and some level people think I might be smart if I rub shoulders with them. But fundamentally, the reason that I'm being able to get with these amazing, highly world-leading experts is because what I'm saying or what I'm doing, it's not me. It's something that is real science that's really getting the results. Because I'm committed to getting results. I'm also committed to having fun and enjoying myself. But if I can do that with the people that I love, I'm like, every day is a great day. I do not see that I work. I feel like I'm a robber. I shouldn't be getting paid for what I do. Because I wake up in the morning and I do not want to go to bed at night because I'm so excited. I love what Gary Rhodes said, and I spent a lot of time with him, and he's got the energy of 10 men. I mean, like you, we're very similar. We've got some gene of this fabric that's just energized. And he said, Gary, I don't know what's going to kill me first, excitement or happiness. I'm just going to explode one day. And he said it with such meaningfulness that I don't know whether to cry or whether to it hit me, because I'm thinking, wow, if we could get that level of vibration and feeling for everybody, what would the world be like?
Yeah, and that goes back to it being this shift. So what's next for you then?
Hopefully a nice cup of coffee.
Yeah, go get some lunch.
Well, for me, I'm really excited. I've just come back from being in Miami for 3 months, and I'm back in England now to see Ellie that I've not seen for 3 months, the grandkids. She's pregnant with a third child.
Oh, amazing.
So we're going to go back up north to see those guys. So my heart's yearning to go see those guys.
Yeah.
But on a level, and I'll be going home to Spain for a couple of months and then back to Miami, because I live between Miami and Naples. It sounds amazing, doesn't it? But
Yeah.
it kind of is, because it's sunshine. Remember, listen, I have chosen my environment, and you too also can get to choose your environment. The past does not equal the future, and whatever you think you can't do, it's never a lack of money, because people say, well, it's all right for you. Listen, it's never a lack of money. It's a lack of focus, direction, and resourcefulness. If you truly want something, drug addicts find a way to get £1,000 a day, and they're a drug addict. What's your excuse? I'm not saying you should go rob and do that stuff, but people are not lacking money. They need to find a big enough why. When you find your why, the what on the how shows up. So me living in Naples and Spain is amazing, but it's work. Spain's really more my relaxing area. I'm going to go actually have probably a week off, because I need people say a week off, you've been in Miami, palm trees, and you've been on the this. No. I have relentlessly, I'm on my mission to do amazing things, work with great people, and see how we can make a difference. But the next steps for me now really is the new version 5 Biodensity has come out. We've launched it after 2 years of it being engineered. And we're about to take this into 3 areas: corporate wellness, nursing homes, and existing locations. And the reason I want to put it in senior care living is because think about it, if your mum or grandmother goes into a care home, they're sat there watching Richard play the guitar while they may be dribbling. We want to put this technology in nursing homes, because I saw what happened to my grandmother, and we can get people that are more senior and deconditioned to get more independent. And actually, the scary thing is, though, one of the nursing home owners said, I've seen one of your videos, Gary, with a testimony of this nursing home in the US, and 2 of the people in the nursing home left the nursing home. I'm like, shit, I didn't have that expectation. So nursing homes, obviously my grandmother, I want to help people that are senior deconditioned. And then the corporate workspace, the government announced not long ago that the 2 biggest reasons why people are not in the workplace affecting the economy and they're absent from work, number 1, mental health. Well, that's the emotional constipation.
Of course.
Okay. Number 2 is MSK, meaning physical deconditioning. So I'm thinking, wait on a second, we need to screen, because the journey to bone health actually doesn't start with the biodensity, and there's other things that you need, but biodensity is an important part of that. People need to know what the T-score is. A T-score shows you if you're in green, yellow, or red. So this is where the marketing's come around. They had me in an office for like 3 hours, and like they just said, you've said loads of amazing things. I'm like, yeah, but I don't know what I said. But they've pulled it out and made it into layman's terms for people to understand it, because he said, the marketing guy says, what you just said there was genius. Well, not genius, like it was amazing. I'm like, well, what did I say? You just said to me, the journey to bone health begins with knowing your T-score. That's what people need to know, where they're starting.
Yeah.
Where does it start? So for people that are aged 30 to 55, that the economy's been affected by, if you was the architect of this building, I don't know how tall this building is.
Not very tall, is it?
But let's just assume we're in a Hilton hotel and it's 50 stories high. If I said to you, Brogan, I love you so much. You're in London a lot. I own this building. I'm going to give you the penthouse for free.
Yeah.
But the only problem
Talking
is...
my language.
The only yeah, just wait, because now I'm not. The only problem is, as the architect, I don't know how strong the foundation of this building is. Do you still want it?
No, I'll probably rent it out to someone else. I'm
That you
joking.
don't like.
I'm joking.
But the reason you don't want it is because it could come tumbling down and kill everybody.
Of course.
But you are the architect, Brogan, of your own building.
Life as well.
Of your own building, your own physical building. But you don't know how strong your foundation is. Skeletal. So if we're to start to understand where his bones are, we can then start to look at the solution. So we're going into corporate. And then the last one is all these biohacking places that are getting flashing lights. And I love it. I've got a sauna space that's like photobiomodulation. It charges the mitochondria. It grounds me. It puts me in a shielded pretend. All that's great. But the fundamental thing is you can get it for free. You don't need to buy it. This is just how do you survive a modern world? That's what biohacking gizmos get you.
And as well, it's like you can drink all the green juice. You can sit in the ice bath for as long as you want. You can eat the keto sage. But ultimately, how you talk to yourself will show you the trajectory of the rest of your life.
Well, listen to this. Every single emotion is connected to a physical ailment in the human body.
Wow.
Psychosomatic illness is a real thing. They now know that left side is female portrayal. They can pinpoint it's that woman or that guy that said that.
Paul, who's meant to, he doesn't share social media or anything, but anyone that's listening, Google him. He's amazing. Say
What's his
Brogan
name?
sent you. Paul Leonard, yeah?
Paul
they
Leonard.
called him the Buddha. But anyway, I can't really share some of his stories he's told me. But anyway, he saw someone, his hand completely fixed like this. His whole life has to get Botox, blah, blah. He saw him, he's like, you've got, and told him. And he was like, what? And he's like, no, predominantly left side is this, it's that. But this has been a really exciting conversation, and I feel that there is a massive shift happening.
I think humanity, there's a shift. People are being awakened anyway. We're not stupid anymore. And I think people are becoming more awakened.
And hopefully everything we said, there's some nice, accessible stuff for people to take away.
I hope so.